Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Self-Care Forum podcast. My name is Dr. Cedric Pachetu, your host for the hour. On this podcast, we bring knowledge to empower you to address the root cause of disease. Our goal is to interest you in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. Today, we are joined by none other than Kelley Gilberry. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Kelley is a certified plant-based nutritionist who decided to go vegan after a series of tragic health events involving his mother as well as his uncle. He's been vegan for almost 2 years, and he's lost about 70 pounds within the first year. He was able to reverse his prediabetes as well as his heart disease. Now, he's proud to say he's in the best shape of his life past the age of 40, and he wants to teach others how they can do the same using plant-based nutrition. So, Kelley, thank you for joining us here. I can't wait for you to give us your secrets, your approach, how to reverse chronic disease, especially obesity being one of them, using plant-based nutrition. Welcome to the Self-Care Forum podcast.
I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So first and foremost, I love to learn a little bit about people's past. So I want to know about your past, just prior to you being a certified holistic nutritionist. What were you doing before, and what events in your life shaped you and molded you, or rather inspired you to pursue this path that you've chosen?
Well, before I was a plant-based nutritionist, of course, I was working in corporate America just like everybody else. And then about 3 years ago, my mother passed away tragically from a heart attack, right? She was literally here one day and then gone the next day from a heart attack, right? So when she passed away, I was in the worst shape of my life. I had just turned, well, I was over 40. I just turned 40. And when she passed away from a heart attack, I was in the worst shape of my life. And then I decided to go back to when I went to the doctor told me, like, listen, with you being in the worst shape of your life, with you being, 60 pounds overweight, your cholesterol is through the roof. You have angina, which is a heart condition where, you feel like chronic crackly chest. And it'll drop you to your knees. Basically, it's a precursor for a heart attack. And then also I had a diagnosis with prediabetes on the same doctor's visit. So when my mother passed, and then my uncle, about 2 months after that, oh, I'm sorry, 6 months after that, he got diagnosed with cancer again. The cancer came back, and for the second time, and when the second time, they gave him 2 months to live. So he ended up living for 5 months. But during that time, I saw, how death can take you out slowly. And then I also saw how death can take you out, very, very quickly. So that affected me. Keep in mind, I was in the worst shape of my life, and given those two diagnoses. So basically, if I didn't get it together, I was getting ready to have a heart attack too. I mean, I felt like I was getting ready to have a heart attack. I was in terrible shape, obesity. I was obese. I was considered obese. Could barely tie my shoes, things of that nature. So it was, and it's just been a lot of years of yo-yo dieting throughout my 30s. I mean, my weight went like this, weight went like down. It was a lot of yo-yo dieting, and then to the point where when I turned 40, there was no more yo-yo dieting, right? There was no more up and down. It was it's only up. Yeah, that was it. It was only up. So after that, I decided to make a change. I decided to go to whole food plant-based diet. I did the more and more research I did. I started doing research into why my mother passed away, what was a heart attack, and what was cancer. I wanted to know where they came from, because they just don't come from anywhere. You just don't wake up one day and you have a heart attack, right? It has to accumulate from somewhere. You just don't wake up one day and you have cancer. So it has to come from somewhere. So when I went back to school, became a holistic nutritionist. The reason I studied holistic nutritionist is because I wanted to understand, the why behind things. Why are we sick? What type of foods are we supposed to be eating? What natural foods are we supposed to eat? How do you heal your body naturally? So that's kind of led me on the path that I'm on today.
Amazing. And thank you for sharing your story. I think it's a powerful testament to what you've gone through and the pain, and how you've been able to channel your energy into a more constructive approach to this. And so it's not easy to, once you make a decision that you want to change your life, especially when it comes to improving your health, right? So you decided to pursue the route of a holistic nutritionist, but nowadays there are so many options. It seems, you've got P90X here, you've got keto diet there. And so how were you able to sift through all of that to come to holistic nutrition?
I sifted through all of it because, again, I wanted to do the research and I wanted to find out. So the more and more research I did, the more and more I kept getting pointed back to the food. Like, okay, well, what about the food, right? It's the food, but what about the food, right? So the more and more research I did, the more and more I found out that human beings are designed to eat plants, right? Everything from nature, Mother Nature says, so whoever you believe in, whatever your faith is, there is a nature, and then that nature created three special diets, right? That's omnivore, herbivore, and carnivore, right? So I had to find out where do human beings fall within. You're going to fall within one of those three, right? Human being, herbivore, omnivore, or carnivore, right? So human beings, I found out based on our anatomy, everything about our anatomy says that you are a plant eater, from your teeth, your flat teeth, to your fingers, to your long digestive tract, to the saliva in your mouth, to your large brain. I mean, everything about you says that you are a plant eater, right? So the more and more research I did, the more and more it's like it's not animal product. Animal products and processed food are very, very detrimental for the human body. I call it diesel fuel, right? You pull up to the gas station, what type of fuel do you put into your car? Put unleaded fuel into your car and it runs like a champ. But on the other hand, if you put diesel fuel into your car, it's like 90% of the standard American diet. Just take that standard American diet. The acronym stands for SAD because it's the standard American diet. And what do you get from the standard American diet? You get crap, as I call it. It's calorie rich and processed food from the standard American diet. So if you put that fuel source into your body all day, every 90% of the time, just like in a car, if you put diesel fuel into a car, it's gonna break down, right? It's not gonna run. If it does run, it's gonna run like, not very well. So I took that philosophy and I find out what is the right fuel source for a human, right? So I checked keto, I checked all these other different things, and the more and more I kept pointing back, like it's not keto, it's not this, it's not that, it's plants, right? That's what nature says. So I just follow those laws, and the way everything just transformed for me. All right, transform my total.
Yes, sir. And you bring up a good point. I mean, if you look at the standard American diet, I believe it's the reason why 6 in 10 Americans have a chronic disease, right? Like if you look at the statistics themselves, 6 in 10 American adults have a chronic disease, 4 in 10 have 2 or more chronic diseases, and you have millions more at risk. Just to give an example, you mentioned prediabetes. So about 11% of the population are diabetic, but you've got 1 in 3, right? 33% of the adult population that is considered pre-diabetic. And of course, most of them don't know that they're pre-diabetic. So they're walking about to fall off a cliff, but they have no idea they're sleepwalking towards the edge of a cliff, right? And so at a certain point, we do have to look at the standard American diet. We do have to look at what we consider normal, and as well as other things, physical activity. And I'm hoping you'll get into some of those things as well. But it starts with the fuel source. It starts with the food, right? And you also mentioned the fact that a lot of it is processed. So what did you learn about that? Because when you say processed, I have a feeling a lot of people don't fully understand what you're referring to.
So there's different types of processed foods, right? There's four different types of processed foods you have, but the main one that I'm referring to is ultra processed foods. So pretty much everything that you eat, everything that comes in some type of package or anything, even like chopped lettuce, like lettuce is not naturally like that. It has to be processed and chopped in some way and put into a bag, right? So, but mainly when I'm talking about processed foods, I'm talking about, like the Beyond Burgers and pretty much any Impossible Meat, anything in the middle aisles, crackers, cookies, cakes, pastries, all these different donuts, all these different, corn dogs and kolaches, and that's all, well, animal products in there too, and then all these different types of breads, right? These are all processed foods. Like the definition of processed food is it's similar to food, but it's not actually food, right? It's food-like, but it's not actually food. So when you put that into your body, your taste buds will say, great, yeah, I love it. Like, I love this processed food. I love the way that the richness of it, like even the sugars and the heavily processed, ultra processed sweetened beverages, like your taste buds love that kind of stuff, right? Because it makes your brain go into overdrive, makes your dopamine receptors go into overdrive. right? So, but your body hates that, right? Your taste buds love it, but the rest of your body hates it. So when you put it into your body and your body doesn't recognize it, and if it doesn't recognize it, as it recognizes as the wrong fuel source. So your body will know what to do with it for a very short period of time, right?
Mhm.
But if you can, it knows how to get rid of it. It says like, oh, this is heavily processed food. Like does not match my anatomy. I know how to get rid of this, right? I'm gonna get rid of it. This is what your body says naturally. But we as human beings, we don't do that, every once in a while. We're filling up with diesel fuel for breakfast. We're filling up with diesel fuel for lunch. We're filling up with diesel fuel for dinner, right? And we're filling up with diesel fuel for snacks in between. So your body is processed food and animal products. Your body's like, I don't know what to do with this, but in the meantime, I'm just going to store it. I'm going to store it as a fat cell. I'm going to store it in my fat cells because that's what your body does when it doesn't know what to do with things.
Mhm.
It stores it in the fats as a toxin, and until it figures out what to do with it. But the problem is, we never allow our body enough time to actually heal itself, right? Because we're
Right, right.
constantly filling our body up. We're constantly going into the ring with Mike Tyson, right? It's like an analogy I like to use. If you go into the ring, if you get into the ring with Mike Tyson in the 1980s, have you ever seen him fight in the 1980s? Yeah,
Iron Mike.
yeah. If he breaks your jaw in the first round, which is very likely, or you're gonna get back in the ring in the second round.
No,
No, you're not gonna get back. What are you gonna get back in for the third round?
absolutely not. I'm out of there.
No, no. So that's what we do. Essentially, that's what we do every time that we're eating diesel fuel for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What happens is your body's like, "Hey, I'm trying to heal. I'm trying to heal," but it's like Mike Tyson hitting you in the jaw every time. You go back in for the second round, your jaw has not healed, but yet you're going back in the ring with Mike again. And you go back in the ring for the third round with Mike, your jaw still hasn't healed. Your corner's throwing in the white flag to say, hey, the fight's over with. It's over, right? How that works with your body is when your body says, like, you have pre-diabetes, you have heart disease, you have cancer, you have all these different strokes, you have all these autoimmune diseases, right? Your body's throwing in the white flag, like, no, I'm done, like, stop it, right? But what we, as human beings, we don't do that. We go back into the ring with Mike for a second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, 800 billion rounds we're getting into the ring with Mike. And every time he's knocking our jaw off, but we're going back into the ring every time, every time, every time. That's
Until
kind
it
of
gets,
how your body works.
well, and I wanted to add, until it gets to the point where you're a little older, your body can't recover as nicely as it once did when you were younger. And so now you have a chronic disease, right?
Yep, it leads to a chronic disease. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think
Yeah.
that's a powerful message, because one of the things I want to convey to people is, you have a lot of people who act so surprised when they're diagnosed with high blood pressure or diabetes or heart disease. Just like, what me, and so they're looking for answers, or they're looking to blame someone or something somewhere out there. But it's like, listen, man, you haven't been innocent. I mean, you have been eating a certain way. You've been living a certain way, right? I mean, even if you eat well, if you never exercise, if you never get fresh air, you don't drink water. So it's a holistic way of living, essentially, right? It's not just one thing, but certainly the food is one of the main contributors to it. If people just knew how the development of a chronic disease, yes, people love to blame genetics. They love to say, well, my daddy had it, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But, genes just load the gun, right? Your choices pull the trigger. So just because you grew up a certain way doesn't mean you have to continue to do that, especially as an adult. And so I wish that more people would hear this message. And I wish that more people would understand how much of an active contributor to their health they are, as opposed to being victims and everything, and going to the doctors and saying, oh, just give me anything. Well, without changing the way you've been eating, and ultimately the way you've been living, there's only so much that drug can do. It can bring your blood sugar down, but the very next day it's right back up, right? It can bring your blood pressure down, but the very next day it's right back up. Until people learn the importance of dealing with the root cause of a chronic disease, it will never change. What do you have to say about that?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like a credit card, right? I compare it to a credit card in the sense that years ago when I was in college, I kind of got a kick out of what my teacher told me, right? she says that, we were eating, me and other students, we were joking, and she was, of course, she's older, and she was saying that, eating pork is not good, what the animals go through, and then how terrible pork is for your body, right? Right. And then she told us that she's like, it's basically like a credit card. Like you can charge all of that stuff now in your 20s. You can charge all of that pork and all of the processed food, and you can charge it in your 20s. But when you get to be in your 30s, or you're going to start, you may start to feel it. But definitely when you get to be in your 40s, you're definitely going to start to feel it. So it's like a credit card. So it's kind of like if you charge a credit card from years and years ago, do you think that the credit card company is going to forget that they gave you that money?
Absolutely not.
No, no, they're not gonna forget. And it's the same thing with your body. You can charge all of that stuff, and you can charge now, but then you pay later. So you charge now, you charge in your 20s, right? You're eating a bunch of diesel fuel. I call it diesel fuel. You're eating a bunch of diesel fuel in your 20s. You're charging the heck out of that credit card, right? And then when you get to be in your 30s, you can charge that credit card even more, right? Charge it and charge it and charge it until you got like I did. And when I got to my 40s, and it was like literally the day I turned 40, it was like your health is like going downhill. All of that yo-yo dieting you were doing over the years, you were able to lose weight. It was like, no, there's no more yo-yo. The only way its direction is up.
Right.
There's no more yo-yo. So that credit card, it accumulated with interest. All right. So with interest over the years, interest was, now I have pre-diabetes. Now I have angina. Now I'm obese. All right. Now I have to go in and get some heart procedure or stent or whatever. So you can charge when you're in your 20s and 30s, but when you're older, it's time to pay up. You pay up by going to the doctor and getting all these expensive procedures. You pay up by going to the doctor by getting the latest and greatest prescription, right? But just like you were saying, it's not about the prescription. It's not about the medication. It's about getting down to the root cause of why do you have diabetes. You have high sugar or high blood sugar as a symptom of being of your body having too much fat within your cells, right? That is the main root cause of your diabetes. Is you have too much it's called intramyocellular cellular lipids, right? AKA fat. It's inside of your cells, and the insulin cannot get in. It's jammed because it's too much fat. So therefore, your blood sugar, it bypasses that. It says like, I can't get in, so I'm just going to keep on going until it accumulates in your blood, and then you have high blood sugar, right? So having high blood sugar is a symptom of having too much, the root cause of having too much fat within your cells.
And I think it's important for people to distinguish what symptoms are, because too often the focus is on, I have high blood sugar. Well, that's the symptom. That's not the root cause, right? Yeah. Drugs do a great job with symptomatic relief, right? Like, let's be honest. If I have high blood pressure and I'm about to go into a hypertensive state, I want me some medication, right? But the idea is, look, once you've brought it down to the point where you're feeling a little bit more normal, you need to look at the root cause, right? No one is demonizing you for saying, oh my gosh, I needed to take this. I get it. We find ourselves in these situations. I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm saying if that to you is what being healthy is all about, then you've missed a boat, because being healthy is not having these conditions to begin with. All right. And so I think it's time for people to start thinking that way a little bit more. But I want to talk a little bit about your mindset, right? Because it took you 40 years before you actually realized this thing. When you look at the average American family or the average American man or the average American adult, right? A lot of them don't think about this thing until something happens to them. So how do you go about changing that mindset? How can we be preemptive and preventative with people? How can we instill that spirit of prevention, essentially? Because if everybody has to wait till they're diagnosed with diabetes and heart disease, not everyone's going to make it. Not everyone's going to go through and make the decisions that you made to come to this conclusion. So what do you think has to be done to save people before they get to that point?
So I'm using myself as a vessel, right? My mother came to me in a dream and told me that, listen, you have the God-given ability to help others, right? To be able to heal and help others, right? This is why God put you on this planet, right? So with that being said, I'm trying to use myself as a vessel, saying that if I can do it, like, if you ever looked at my pictures, if you ever looked at a guy who doesn't know anything about nutrition. All he knows is double cheeseburger. This is literally all I knew. It's a double cheeseburger, extra pickles, and small fry. Right. I had no intention, and I wash it down with a Mountain Dew. I had no intention on ever becoming a plant-based or becoming vegan, or I didn't even know what that was. If you to say like, hey, Kelley, I want you to be plant-based or vegan, I'd probably laugh at you in your face. Right. So yeah. So the idea is you got to ask a person their why. Why do you want to do this? Right? Is that and in my program, I ask them a series of questions. I'm trying to get into their head and understand, because the diet is the easy part. You know, eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains. That's the easy part. It's the mindset that your body's just going to fall in line with whatever you want to do. Right. Right. So losing weight is hard. Being overweight is hard. Right. You have to choose which hard that you want to be. Do you want to be overweight? Yeah, that's hard. Losing weight, it's hard too. So which one do you want to choose, right? And you got to understand people's why. Why are they doing it? Some people do it for their kids. Like, hey, yeah, I want to see my kid, play football, or I want to do it because I want to go out into the football game, and I want to be able to just sit in a crowd and sit in the stands and not be filled with sweat because I got to go because I can't take sitting in these bleachers because I'm too overweight. Right. So I did it because of what happened to me and the tragedies that happened in my life. That's the reason that I did it. And then I took a long look at my health. So that's the idea is to establish, why do you want to do this? What is your driving? Because you don't have to be motivated 100% of the time. Right. You wake up every day like, I don't want to do this. There's so much temptation in the world. Like, you can go to Burger King, you can go to all these different places. Right. There's not a lot of vegan options. Or there are vegan options, but there are not a lot of plant-based options like they are, everything else. So you have to be really focused and understand, what is your why? Why am I doing this? Why am I not going to the drive-through? Or why am I not going? What is the reason that I'm doing this? And once you understand that why, once you can establish that why, that'll trump everything. If you don't have a strong why, then nine times out of 10, you're going to end up falling back into your old ways.
Now, when you work with clients and everything, what do you find as being, once you understand their why, what do you find as being one of the hardest changes for them to make? Because, I mean, eating like the standard American diet, it's addictive, right? You've got all that sugar, and many people don't understand, but sugar is one of the most addicting substances on earth. And so this is why, and I love the analogy you said. You said your brain and your taste buds love it, but your body hates it, right? And just to add to this point, the American Heart Association recommends that men get no more than 35 grams of sugar a day, and women get no more than 25 grams of sugar a day. Yet the average American adult consumes nearly 80 grams of sugar, right? So that's about 3 times more sugar than is recommended for women. Now, of course, that leads to inflammation. Of course, it leads to all sorts of chronic diseases, right? Diabetes for one, obesity, everything you can think of, sugar contributes to it. Now, enough sugar, the right amount of sugar is fine, but we're eating excessively more than we're supposed to, right? And that's not going to slow down, because again, sugar makes you feel good. It's super addictive. It's pleasurable. So how do you, once you understand somebody's why, how do you, or in your experience, what have you found to be the hardest thing for them to change? Because they've got to stop what they've been doing for 30, 40 years, right? And they've got to make a quick turn to do something that is very different than what they've done for the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it's just establishing a routine, right? Establishing a routine, because that's the making the transition from again, being out in the society where everything's quick, everything's fast paced, everything is convenient, to the point where now you got to make a lot of your own food, right? Like, you got to spend a lot of time in the cooking, prepping and preparing. And then the main thing that people don't want to give up, you're saying like sugar, but another thing that people find very, very, very difficult to give up is cheese, right? Cheese is another the most addictive substance in the world, up there with sugar, right? So yeah, it's all about establishing their why and yeah.
Okay, so one of the things you mentioned earlier, you mentioned allowing the body to heal, right? So how does one allow their body to heal? What do you mean by that?
Allowing your body to heal, just like a construction site analogy. Like the construction site is in the sense that if they're trying to repair the roads for construction, what is it that they have to do? They have to stop the traffic. They have to stop the flow of traffic, or they have to, make the traffic go around. They're going to fix the roads, but for them to fix the roads, they need for you to stop the traffic, right? And it's the same thing. They need to stop the traffic, and it's the same thing with your body. Your body has built-in healing mechanisms all day, every day. I mean, that's what it is, built-in healing mechanisms, right? It's going to heal. It wants to heal. It literally wants to be in homeostasis. But 9 times out of 10, on the standard American diet, we don't give our body enough time to heal because of the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon is something called the circadian rhythm. Every cell in your body, every organ in your body operates in a timely manner. So just like with the construction site, you have to give it time to heal. So when the sun goes up, that's when it's time to eat. That's when your body say, okay, I'm up, my cortisol levels are up, my melatonin levels are down, it's time to eat, right? And then at nighttime, it says my melatonin levels are rising and my cortisol levels are falling. Now it's time to let the food, go away. It's all the food that I had from the day. It's time to use that food as fuel, as repair. I'll take all the antioxidants, and basically it's time to do maintenance. It's time to do maintenance on the body. That's when you're not eating. That's at night. That's naturally by nature. But most of us, we don't stop eating when your body says stop. Typically at about 7 o'clock, your body says it's time to stop eating, right? I have all the fuel that I need. I'm going to take all of that raw material and I'm going to make magic out of it, and I'm going to prepare you for the next day. But we're still eating at 8, 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're waking up, and we're never giving our body enough time to heal itself naturally. Just like in a construction site, you have to stop the traffic, and it's the same thing with the food. You have to stop the food so your body can heal itself. Your body is not going to. Your body's ability to heal itself, it goes hand in hand with how much time you give it to heal. So digestion takes a lot of time, a lot of time, a lot of energy. So the second you eat something, it takes the body away from healing, because digestion takes so much time to do. It takes the body away from healing, and it puts that towards digestion. So it's constantly digesting. Again, this is like the same thing. You get in the ring with Mike Tyson. You're never letting your body heal. You get in the ring 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, right? You just give your body time to heal. Just like if Mike breaks your jaw, if you give your jaw enough time to heal, it's going to heal itself naturally. And it's the same thing with the rest of your body. Your internal organs are the exact same way. So you just have to give it time to heal. And that time to heal is when the sun goes down, right? You wake up in the morning and you prepare for the next day.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Healing usually takes place at night. Even as far as cholesterol, right? Your body, one thing I love sharing with people, because they just could not even fathom it, is, most of the cholesterol in your body comes from your liver. It makes the cholesterol itself, and it makes the cholesterol at night when you sleep, right? So giving yourself enough time to sleep. By the way, for those of you listening, cholesterol is a really, 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 really good thing for the human body, right? It's been demonized, but what they're really looking at is LDL. These are lipoproteins, right? LDL, HDL, but those are lipoproteins. They carry cholesterol. Cholesterol itself, it's really, really good. It makes your bones, right? Vitamin D, which gives you strong bones. It makes your hormones, your sex hormones. Your brain is made up of cholesterol. Cholesterol is used for a variety of things in the body, but the liver makes the cholesterol in the middle of the night, right? And so you see a lot of the processes and procedures and hormones that are being made at night. So that tells you that the body prepares to heal itself, and actually does heal itself, when you get ample time to sleep. And so that is something I want more people to be aware of, right? That you've got to give yourself time to sleep. But I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the circadian rhythm, because a lot of people may not fully understand that.
Yeah, the circadian is Latin for about 24, meaning 24 hour. it's a 24-hour cycle. So it's the natural, every living species has a circadian rhythm. So we have circadian rhythms, dogs have circadian rhythms, frogs have circadian rhythms, sharks have circadian, everybody has a circadian rhythm, which stands for about 24 hours. And what that means is in relation to the sun, your body is in perfect harmony with nature. Just like the sun and the moon. Like, what can you do about the sun and the moon?
Nothing.
You can't do anything about the sun and the moon. Like, you can't do anything about the sun rising. You can't do anything about the sun falling, right? That's the truth of the matter. And it's the same thing within your body. You cannot do anything. You cannot change anything that says that you have a natural built-in circadian rhythm. This is why, just like the example I gave you, and when you wake up in the morning, it's time to rise. The light hits your eyes, and then it's your body saying like, okay, it's time for my cortisol levels to rise, and it's time for my melatonin levels for sleeping. It's time to fall. That happens naturally about every 24 hours, right? So it's called your circadian rhythm. So all of your organs have a circadian rhythm as well. And then sleeping at nighttime. So you wake up in the morning, and then at nighttime you go to sleep. You get so relaxed. You get so toned down to the point where you get so relaxed, you wake up and then someone's waking you up, say, hey, wake up, because you fell asleep. That's part of your circadian rhythm, because you go to sleep every night. Every night, it's the same time. It's an internal clock. And it operates the same way with food. It wants food during the daytime. And at nighttime, your pancreas is supposed to shut off. It shuts off at about 7 o'clock at night. And it says, I'm done with making insulin. I don't need any more insulin, because it's time to go and repair myself, right? So that's what your internal circadian rhythm is. It goes in relation with the sun and the moon, right? It's kind of like when you travel from one time zone to another time zone. Mm-hmm. If you travel from one time zone to another time zone, guess what happens? You're going to get this condition called jet lag. Jet lag is in relation to the sun and the moon. Like, if it's a 5-hour difference, you're going to feel that 5 hours. You're going to be like, oh man, I'm super, super sleepy, right? Or I'm wide awake for whatever reason at a certain time. It's because your clock is thrown off. You give it some time. So for however many days that you're there. So if you travel for 3 time zones, 3 hours, it's going to take you about 3 days for your body to adjust to the rhythm of the sun and the moon, right? Then after a few days, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. My rhythm has been restored, so I'm good to go. Right, so that's your circadian rhythm. So I can fly from here to Australia, 14-hour difference. Right, my body is going to be tore up. My clock is going to be way off. But after some days, after about a week or two, I'm going to start to feel a lot better. I'm going to start sleeping through the night, and my rhythm is not going to be thrown off, because your circadian rhythm, it gets in line with the sun and the moon. So that's why I'm saying you can't do anything about the sun, and you can't do anything about the moon. All you can do is get in line with the circadian rhythm. And again, it works the same way with food. Your body's like, nighttime, I don't want any food. I'm good. I've had all the fuel that I need from today. Now it's time to go in and maintenance, do repairs, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what the circadian rhythm is.
Thank you for explaining that. So you're an advocate of people, when the sun goes down, that's really when you should stop eating, right? Or wind down on your consumption. And so you're allowing yourself to heal. And so when the sun comes up, that's, so essentially, about what time are we talking about?
About 7 o'clock. About 7 o'clock is when your pancreas shuts off.
Okay. So about 7 o'clock, your pancreas shuts off. So that means that if your pancreas isn't making insulin, it's dangerous, right? Because anything you eat, that sugar is probably going to stick around in your blood for a long time, and you really don't want that.
Right, precisely. Yeah, we're constantly snacking, so our insulin levels are constantly up, right? It tricks your body into says like, okay, it's no longer daytime. It tricks your body into says, okay, or even though it's nighttime, it tricks your body into says that it's daytime. So your body thinks that it's daytime, right? So it's constantly moving, constantly. Like I said before, digestion takes a huge toll on your body, right? It takes a lot of cells, it takes a lot of energy for your body to digest it. It's a huge process. So at nighttime, when you're in maintenance mode, it does not want to be just like the construction site. You cannot keep the traffic going through. You got to stop the traffic. And it's the same thing. You got to stop the food for your body to heal itself, or it's not going to, right? It's just going to keep on. And and like we talked about earlier, the older you get, the more you're going to feel it. That's why when I turned 40, I all the stuff that I did before to lose the weight, I couldn't lose the weight anymore because my everything was so thrown off. Right,
Mhm.
I had pre-diabetes, so I mean, heart disease, angina. So everything's thrown off. I can't do this. I couldn't do the same stuff that I did before to lose the weight.
So let's talk a little bit about your healing process, right? So you learned all of this information, all this wonderful information, and you applied it to yourself. Was there an exercise routine or regimen that you focused on? Was that a part of it?
Yeah.
Because you
So
lost 70 pounds.
yeah.
So
So yeah. So my exercise. So it's all about your why, right? So at the time, so I'm not in that headspace anymore. But at the time, this was during COVID, right? So everybody was staying at home, so I had no choice but to stay at home. So the more and more research I did, of course, when I went back to school and find out things, I really found out the reason that my mother passed away. I found out where heart disease came from. I found out where cancer came from, right? So my workouts, I didn't change my workouts at all. The only thing that I changed was the fuel source that I put into my body. The only thing that I changed about my workouts, I did work out. I worked out consistently. I worked out consistently, and I increased the intensity at the time because my head was kind of gone as far as the sense that I was really upset when I found out the reason that my mother passed away because you know too many hot dogs and hamburgers and all that stuff, like and neck bones and things of that nature. So it really made me. And then I found out that where cancer came from. Different types of cancers come from different where, but the majority of the cancer comes from a lot of the stuff that you eat, right?
yeah,
But there's other things in your environment that cancer is very, very tricky. But there's other things in your environment that can contribute to cancer. So when I found out this out, I was just I guess you could say, to lack of a better term, I was working out angry. Right, working out angry. I was working out consistently. Like I hit the bag that much harder. Like I think about my mom being in a coffin because of a hamburger or because of this or because of that, and it made me drive that much harder. It made me go like, I'm going that much harder, that much harder. I'm gonna lift this weight that much harder. I'm gonna run, this extra mile because of this. And then also find out. Then I started maximizing on the plants in the sense that again, I went back to school to start studying nutrition. Then I started learning about natural pre-workout formulas. I found out about beets, right? Beet juice, right? You take beet juice about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you work out. You can work out like a madman and you wouldn't even notice.
really.
Right? Yeah, because it takes in it beats oxygenate your blood, right? Oxygenate your blood. So it makes it allows you to have more oxygen when you're working out. So when you're working out, you don't even feel it. So you're working out for like an hour or two. You're just like, man, I don't even feel this because I'm not getting tired. Your stamina is up because you have so much oxygen flowing through your cells.
Mhm.
Right? So I started learning about beet. I started learning about maximizing. How do you maximize your workout? Right? What kind of what kind of food do you need at a certain time to be able to maximize your workouts? Because keep in mind, we were in COVID, nobody was going anywhere. So I'm just, instead of me sitting around, gaining weight, I just say, you know what, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to just go super hard and see if I can't lose this weight. That wasn't even my intention, to be honest with you. My intention was not to lose the weight. My intention was to, I didn't want to have pre-diabetes anymore. Well, to
Mhm.
lose the weight, of course, but I didn't want to lose that much. I didn't want to be back to my high school weight. That wasn't my intention. I just didn't want to have pre-diabetes or angina anymore, right? So
Mhm.
that was my intention. But just like I said earlier, what your body, it wants to heal. All you have to do, just like the construction site analogy, all you have to do is give it the time and you give it the right equipment, which is the right equipment for a human body is plants. You give it the right equipment, guess what? It's going to heal itself. So again, I didn't want to be back to my high school weight. I haven't been in my high school weight in over 26 years, this weight that I am right now.
Mhm.
So I'm a
Wow.
guy in my 40s, and now I'm back to my teenage weight.
Amen, brother. That's the
Which again,
goal.
I was not trying to do that. That was just that you put the right fuel source into your body, right? You get up and you move, you exercise. It's just all. It's not even about my wife. She lost a bunch of weight too. She lost about 50 pounds or so, and she did not work out like at all, really. The only thing that she did is she stayed active, right? She's a nurse, so she works on the floor at work. So she's constantly moving here, going there, here, everywhere. She's really, really active. So it was the same way. So she was like, well, how am I losing so much weight? And you're working out all the time, but yet I don't work out. I was like, well, it's because you're active. You're really, really active on the floor, right?
Mhm.
Running to this patient's room, that patient's room. So yeah,
But it comes down to the fuel source that you put in. That's what makes the difference, correct?
that's the main driver, the fuel source. Like I didn't change my workouts. I did not change my workouts from when I lost 70 pounds to when I was obese, pre-diabetes, and heart disease. I did not change my workouts. The only thing, again, I changed my intensity. But as far as like, working out all the time, I didn't change my workouts. I didn't change the type of workouts that I did. The only thing that I changed was my fuel source. And when I changed my fuel source, then that's when all the magic happened.
Amazing. Now, I think one of the other tools that you need if you wanted to transform your health and allow you definitely need wisdom, right? And most people haven't gone to school like yourself. So that's where a coach comes in. That's where a health coach comes in and can hold your hand and guide you. So tell us a little bit about One Determined Vegan, which is the company you started and what some of the work that you do and how you work with people.
Right. Yeah. So appreciate that. Yeah. So basically, when they come to me, they say, "Hey, listen, I'm ready." Again, I'm gonna ask you some serious questions, and I'm gonna find out your why, because this is not something that most people don't wake up one day and say, "Hey, yeah, I want to be a vegan," right? Most people don't do that. So my program is about teaching you. Again, the diet is easy. I'm gonna show you how to eat in the rhythm with the sun and the moon. Right. So based on what your condition is, I'm gonna build a customized nutrition plan based off of that, based off of what your goal is or what's going on with you. I'm going to recommend the supplements. I'm going to recommend everything that you have, and it's on a portal. I have a portal just like at a doctor's office. You go into the doctor's office and they give you the portal. It's the same way. So it's weekly reports. I print out whenever we have our consultation or whenever we talk on a weekly basis. I will send you a report, everything that we talked about, and then your plan for the week. All right. So it makes it easy for you. So there's no guessing there, like, okay, what do I have to eat? Or I never feel worried about anything because you already know, what the plan is for the week. And then if you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to me and we'll get it taken care of. But it's all about putting you through phases, right? So you go from the standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet. I got to put you in stages, right? Because it depends on, some people may have, irritable bowel syndromes, things of that nature. When you go from the standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet, yeah, I'm gonna have to hold your hand in the sense that your digestion is gonna be all over the place, right? Your stomach is your gut bug. You're feeding new gut bugs, right? So you may have some bloating, you may have some gas, you may have all of this different stuff. But after a while, after about 2 or 3 weeks, your cells, like we talked about, our cells will start to adjust. It will start to adjust, and it will start to establish a new rhythm. Like, oh, okay, I got what he's doing. Like, let me express myself in a certain way. He's giving me this fuel source, so now it's time to express myself. He or she's giving me this fuel source. Now it's time to express myself in a different way. So I just explained that throughout the process. It's a 3-month program. 3-month program starts you from different phases, right? So from the standard American diet to the real food challenge. I put you on a real food challenge, meaning you're gonna eat real food the entire time. All right. Mm-hmm. We're gonna cut out all of the crap, as I call it, calorie rich and processed food, and we are just gonna eat real food, and the weight falls off magically, right? Falls off magically because it's inevitable. As long as you eat with the sun and the moon, the weight has no choice but to come off.
Right.
Your body has no choice but your body has no choice but to heal itself, right? Your body is a an incredible piece of machinery, right? So I just explain that to you. I'm doing my program. I explain that to you, how much of an incredible piece of machinery your body is.
And the wonderful thing is, it's not just for one thing, right? Because once your body starts healing, all of these diseases, whether you have 1 or 3 or 5, or, they start getting better, right? So it's almost like once you stop the inflammation that comes with the standard American diet, the sugar, the industrial seed oils, and all this stuff, right? Once you stop the inflammation and you put the right fuel source, right, plant-based foods and water, that sort of thing, the body just starts healing. Whatever the problem is, wherever it is, it just starts getting better. Is that some of the things 100%. That you've observed with your clients?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, it's going to start happening quickly, right? Because your body is, again, it literally wants to heal. It does not want to be obese. It does not want to have, heart disease. It does not want to have, rheumatoid arthritis. It does not want to have that. So the second that you're putting it in, is like literally the next meal, your body is going to take that fuel source, because your body doesn't know. Your body just wants to fuel the right nutrients. That's our brains that's saying, hey, give me sugar, give me, cheese, right? That's your brain saying that. Your body is like, no, give me the real nutrients that I want so I can heal myself, because I want to heal. please give them to me. And when you give them to me, give me the right equipment. It has no choice but to heal itself, because that's the way that nature has designed your body to naturally heal itself.
That's right. No, that's absolutely true. Thank you for sharing that point. So how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me. Mostly I'm on Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram at one determined vegan, or it's one underscore determined underscore vegan, or one determinedvegan.com. That's my website. One determinedvegan.com is the entire letter ONE, determinedvegan.com. Or also you can find me on LinkedIn as well at one determined vegan.
So for those of you watching, we will put his social media links and contact information once this video is uploaded on YouTube. So I want to give you the last word, Kelley. You've certainly, enlightened us with your testimony, your story, your history, and what inspired you. And I love that, as someone who's interviewed many people in the health and wellness space, I'm always learning something new, right? Somebody always has something that I didn't even think about. So I want to thank you for that personally, but I want to give you the last word before we go into Q&A. Is there anything you want to share, something that maybe we didn't touch upon?
Yeah, I always say that you left me with the last word. I'm going to leave the last word to this, right? When it comes to marketing and things of that nature, when I say marketing is one hell of a thing, right? So you start getting into all these different stuff like, okay, well, this doctor says this, or this doctor says that, or this person says this, or this commercial, or this ad says this. What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm so confused. I don't even know what to do anymore. Like, I see somebody says this, somebody says, I'm so many different opinions, right? I don't know what to do. When it comes to things like that, just forget about what everybody says. Forget about what your doctor says. Forget about what the commercial says. Forget about what all these people say, and just listen to what Mother Nature says to do. Listen to what does Mother Nature say that you're supposed to do, right? Nature is the most powerful force on the planet, right? There's nothing more powerful than nature, right? And guess where these plants come from? The plants come from nature, right? So these plants come from nature, from the most powerful force on the planet. You eat these plants and you give up all of the other stuff. Even, again, medication, like we talked about medication. Medication is for a very short period of time. It's kind of like I like to compare it to the 4x100 relay at the Olympics. If you take the baton, it's 4 participants in the 4x100. You take that baton and you pass it to the next person, like super, super fast, right? Pass the baton until it gets all the way to the anchor leg. When it gets to the anchor leg, guess what happens? The anchor takes it all the way to the finish line. And that's how you should be when it comes to medication. When it comes to medications, yes, take medication for a short period of time, because if you need it, very short period of time, emergencies, things of that nature. But once the emergency is over with, then you hand that baton off to the real medication, which is the plants, and they'll take it all the way to the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And I just thought of a Bible verse, Revelations chapter 22, verse 2. Part of it, and it teaches, and the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. So there you go.
Absolutely.
If you want a divine justification for, adopting a plant-based diet, but also being
Which verse was that? I'm gonna write that. Which verse was that? I'm gonna write that down.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 2. Well, I mean, we can go all the way to Genesis. I mean, God told Adam and Eve, and essentially mankind, that you are to eat from the fruits of the tree. Like they were, the original creation was essentially vegetarian, vegan. They didn't eat meat. It wasn't until after the flood that God put the fear of man in animals, and everything was destroyed. So he said, okay, now you can eat it. It's not a sin per se, right? But nevertheless, you mentioned the anatomy of man. Well, if you look at scripture from a biblical perspective, you're right. The man was designed to be vegan, to eat plants and herbs and live like that. And of course, a lot of the medicines that we use are derived from plants, believe it or not, right? We simply isolate a chemical from that plant. So instead of giving you the whole shrub or something like that, we isolate that chemical, and then we, package it into a capsule or a tablet or something like that. But a lot of these medicines come from plants. Don't be fooled. So plant-based is nothing new. It's just something that in the Western world, in the modern world, we've forgotten, sadly, and so that's why for many people it seems so far-fetched. But no, it's nothing strange, as it's something that humankind has always known about. And I think that now, where you have a situation where 6 in 10 adults have a chronic disease, and you're looking at that number rising, where we spent $4.1 trillion on healthcare back in 2020. It's set to be about $6 trillion by 2028. Think about that, right? It's going to go up nearly $2 trillion in 8 years. System's unsustainable. I talk about, I'm going to plug my book. I talk about this in my book, Self-Care Advocate, right? We will have no choice but to start living holistic lives, because the system itself cannot continue to afford this. So pretty soon, and I'm telling people, you need to start becoming a self-care advocate, right? Look at yourself, look at your health. If it is not where you want, you need to become an active participant. You need to look for wisdom, right? And that means you've got to ask your doctor's questions. And if you don't get them from there, you maybe go the other way, right? You have dietitians that you can talk to. You have holistic health coaches. And again, if something doesn't work, you stop doing it, okay? And you try something else. But you need to be an active participant in your health, because when something, God forbid, something bad happens to you, you know what? The world moves on. It's sad to say, but the world moves on. So
Yeah,
you've got to care for yourself, for you.
yeah, you definitely got to be your own doctor.
Yeah, you really do. You really do. You've got to become a self-care advocate, because this idea of simply, taking the pill and nodding at the doctor, it's not working, right? And so we've got to start looking at what we're eating that's causing us to have all these chronic conditions.
A doctor can treat you, but a doctor can't take care of you. They can treat your
Great point.
symptoms, but they can't take care of you.
Great point. Great point. That's a good one. I'm gonna have to use that. So
Yeah.
Kelley Gilberry, One Determined Vegan, thank you for joining us here on the Self Care Forum podcast. I say that because we're going to stop recording and we're going to take some questions from the audience. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Listen to the audio version of the Self Care Forum podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.